Welcome to the deep dive. Let's jump right into a question we all face, right?
Yeah.
What do you do in those moments when you just, feel like giving up?
hmm
And maybe even could the pain or struggle you're going through actually be the very thing that helps you grow?
That feeling, yeah, the urge to just escape when things get hard, it's so common. But this idea that struggle isn't just like an obstacle, but maybe a pathway,
Yeah.
that's where it gets really interesting, I think.
Absolutely. And to explore this, we've been digging into this really fascinating piece. It's titled Turning Pain into Growth by aLuMeow.
Okay.
And what makes it so cool, I think, is that it doesn't just stick to one area. It pulls insights from, well, all over the map. You've got ancient stuff like Stoicism, modern neuroscience findings,
Yeah.
psychological research like on expressive writing,
Oh, wow.
and even these really powerful personal stories like David Goggins.
Right. Bringing together such different perspectives, philosophy, science, lived experience, it gives you such a rich, kind of multifaceted view on resilience, on growth. It shows how these core ideas sort of echo across different fields.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Hmm.
So our mission really in this deep dive is to unpack 5 specific approaches that the article lays out. And these aren't just, abstract theories. They feel like practical ways you might shift your mindset, maybe your actions, when things get tough.
Okay.
And the article uses some great analogies, too, from video games to, like, ripening fruit. Makes it really stick. Let's get into it.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it.
Okay, so let's start with the first approach the article talks about. This one taps into the world of gaming, but also personal endurance. It's called double XP training.
Huh. Okay, I like that framing already. It immediately makes difficulty sound like something valuable.
Right, it does. The core idea, and the article links this straight to David Goggins, the ultramarathoner, from his book Can't Hurt Me.
Right, Goggins, yeah. Yeah.
It's pretty simple, but really powerful.
hmm
When you're in a situation where you feel like escaping, where you really want to quit, you deliberately reframe it. You tell yourself, okay, I'm in double XP mode right now.
Ah, okay. So every moment of struggle, every bit of discomfort or pain you choose not to run away from,
Yeah.
it's like you're earning double the experience points. You're leveling up your mental toughness faster than you would if things were easy.
Precisely.
Yeah.
The article highlights Goggins' concept of building a mental callus.
Mm.
And this isn't about just being numb to pain,
Mm.
right? It's about deliberately putting yourself through challenges, through discomfort,
Mm.
safely, smartly, but through that consistent effort,
Mm.
you build up this psychological tolerance, this resilience. It's like lifting weights, but for your mind.
And that connects directly to Goggins' famous idea, which the article notes that most of us are only tapping into maybe 40% of our actual capacity, physically and mentally. So those double XP moments, at times you feel like you're hitting that 40% wall and just want to stop. That's exactly the point where you can push past that limit you've set for yourself and find out what you're really made of.
So think about this for yourself for a second. The next time you hit a wall, maybe it's a tough workout, or a really demanding project at work, or just dealing with some nagging frustration instead of thinking, ugh, I need to stop this.
Mm-hmm.
What if you actually thought, okay, this is it, double XP time. This discomfort is literally making me stronger right now. How might that specific thought shift your experience?
It totally reframes that feeling of wanting to quit. It's not a sign of weakness anymore. It becomes a signal that you're right there on the edge of some pretty significant growth.
Yeah, that framing alone can be a game changer for a lot of people. Okay, let's shift gears. Let's move to a completely different source of wisdom for the second approach. The article calls this one the Stoic ripe fruit.
Ah, okay. So drawing on ancient philosophy now, Stoicism, they had a lot to say about getting through hardship.
They really did.
Yeah.
And the article uses this lovely analogy rooted in Stoic thinking, comparing your own inner development, your character, your virtue, to a piece of ripening fruit, like a peach, for instance.
Okay, I think I see where this is going. You think about a fruit tree, right? For that peach to get really ripe and sweet and flavorful, it doesn't just need sunshine.
No.
It has to put up with some tough weather too, the wind, the rain, maybe even some hail. The article points out that the Stoic view, which you find in texts like The Beginner's Guide to Stoicism that it mentions, is that it's because the fruit endures these hard conditions. That's what helps it fully mature.
It's not just enduring despite the bad weather, is it? It's almost like the struggle itself is part of what makes it ripen properly.
Yeah.
The challenges aren't obstacles to getting ripe. They're the necessary environment for it.
That's a key Stoic point. While we often can't control the external stuff, the weather in our lives, so to speak, we can control our internal response.
Wow.
So enduring that external hardship with, say, courage and perseverance, that is the practice that builds those inner strengths, resilience, patience, wisdom. The difficulty isn't happening to you just to be cruel. It's happening for you, giving you the conditions your character needs to ripen.
So let's bring this to you, the listener, again. Does viewing the tough times you're going through right now, those personal storms or winds, not just as things to get through, but as kind of necessary weather for your own development, does that resonate? Does that maybe shift how you feel about the pain?
It can transform suffering from seeming like just meaningless bad luck into something potentially purposeful, part of your growth story.
Okay, shifting gears again. The third approach takes us back to gaming analogies, but this time applied internally to our emotions. It's titled, Rare Emotions Are Like Boss Fights.
Ah, this sounds like it's about how we handle those feelings we usually try to dodge.
Exactly. The idea here, as the article presents it, is that those really intense, uncomfortable emotions, the ones you really don't want to feel, like deep sadness, maybe overwhelming fear, or that searing shame, they're actually like rare monsters, or maybe boss fights in a video game. And the twist is, when they show up, you shouldn't try to run away. You should see it as an opportunity you don't want to miss.
So you flip the script. Instead of feeling fear or dread when these big emotions surface, you try to cultivate, a sense of excitement. Or maybe curiosity, like, here's a rare one. What can I learn if I actually engage with this difficult feeling?
Yeah, exactly. The article kind of implicitly links this to ideas from neuroscience, referencing work like Lisa Feldman Barrett's How Emotions Are Made.
Oh, interesting. Her work on constructed emotion.
Right. Her research suggests emotions aren't just these automatic reactions that happen to us. They're actively constructed by our brain.
Yeah.
Based on sensory input, our past experiences, the context.
And that, I think, is the key insight for this approach. If emotions are constructed, not just passively received, then maybe you have more agency in how you interpret them, how you respond to them. Approaching a tough emotion, like a boss fight, is a conscious choice to engage with that internal experience, to try and understand how it's being put together in that moment instead of just getting swept away. It's like engaging with valuable data about yourself and your situation.
So listener, think about an emotion you really, really try to push away. Maybe next time that feeling starts to bubble up, what if you just paused, took a breath and thought, okay, here it is, a rare boss fight. Let's see what this one's about. Can you approach it with that kind of curious engagement?
It changes something that feels potentially debilitating to more of an active challenge, something to be met and understood.
Which leads perfectly into the fourth method, actually.
Yeah.
Because this builds on noticing those internal states. It's called Every Thought is an Opportunity to Train.
Okay, so this takes that idea of engaging with emotions and applies it more to the thoughts that buzz around them.
Right. The article suggests that the very moment difficult emotions arise is actually the best time to practice observing your thoughts. Which sounds kind of counterintuitive. Yeah. Because you often feel overwhelmed by the thoughts and the feelings then.
Yeah, you'd think you'd want a quiet mind to observe thoughts.
Exactly. But the article uses this really neat analogy drawing on some research. It says, just like our eyes are automatically drawn to moving objects in our vision. They just stand out. They're highly salient.
Visual salience, yeah.
Well, a mind that's buzzing with strong emotions makes your thoughts in that moment more mentally salient. They're more active. They're more obvious. And therefore may be easier to spot and observe than when your mind is totally quiet. The article even references research, like studies you might find in journals like PNAS about visual salience, to sort of back this comparison up.
So instead of thinking, oh no, my mind is racing, I can't handle these thoughts, you could reframe it as, okay, my mind's active, my thoughts are really visible right now, perfect training opportunity. And the practice here isn't about stopping the thoughts, it's simply observing them. Without judgment, without immediate reaction. It's like, watching cars drive by, you notice them, you see them, but you don't have to jump in every single one.
Yeah.
This is really fundamental mental training, learning to create a little space between yourself and your thoughts, especially when they're loud and insistent because of strong emotions.
So the next time a strong feeling hits and your thoughts are just swirling, can you pause, use that heightened mental activity as a signal, and just try to notice the thoughts that are there, like spotting moving objects in your mental landscape, not about stopping them, just seeing them.
Cultivating that awareness, especially in those tough moments, it's incredibly powerful for gaining perspective.
Okay, so for the fifth and final method, We shift from that internal observation to actually externalizing our inner world. Say it out loud, write it down.
Ah, okay. This sounds like a practical technique, probably grounded in some psychological research.
It is, yeah. The article describes this practice where when you're feeling low or maybe overwhelmed, you actively express your thoughts and feelings.
Yeah.
And you use whatever tools make it easy, maybe voice to text on your phone, typing into a note, or even using something like ChatGPT as a kind of sounding board.
And the article gives these specific, almost playful details about it, right? Like describing the situation, really detailing your feelings.
Yeah.
And even suggesting you pretend I'm a movie character, changing my tone just for fun.
I loved that personal touch, too. It makes it seem less, I don't know, clinical or daunting.
Right.
And the mechanism here, as the article explains it, is basically a form of expressive writing or expressive speaking, putting those chaotic internal thoughts and feelings into words outside of yourself, whether you speak them or write them. It seems to do a few key things.
Yes, the research on expressive writing is pretty solid here. That process helps organize jumbled thoughts. It creates a bit of psychological distance from intense emotions. Suddenly you're looking at them rather than just being completely in them. And that facilitates processing. By giving language to a feeling, you engage different parts of your brain, and you can start to maybe reframe the experience. The article links this to building mental resilience and reducing stress.
So for you listening,
Yeah.
have you ever tried getting those difficult, swirling feelings out of your head? By actually saying them aloud, maybe just to yourself or into a recorder, or by writing them down. Did that act of externalizing have any effect? Did it shift your perspective, even just a little bit?
It really can transform this overwhelming internal state into something external, something maybe more manageable that you can then look at, understand, and process more effectively.
Wow. Okay. So we've just walked through 5 pretty distinct approaches from this source, seeing struggle as double XP training,
The Goggins idea.
viewing hardship as necessary for maturity, like that ripening fruit from the Stoics,
Yeah.
approaching tough emotions as these rare boss fight opportunities,
The gamer mindset for feelings.
using those emotional moments as the best time to observe your thoughts.
That salience idea.
And then finally, externalizing feelings through expression, saying it or writing it down.
And what seems to tie all these seemingly different ideas together is that they are all active strategies. They're ways of engaging with pain or difficulty.
Right.
They offer alternatives to that common impulse we have to just avoid it or suppress it or just passively endure it. These are all about finding ways to interact with the challenge in order to foster growth.
And the article really leaves you with that invitation, doesn't it? Which of these methods resonates most with you right now? Which one feels like something you might actually try?
Exactly. This deep dive wasn't about handing you one single right answer. It's more about offering a toolkit, right? Practical insights drawn from philosophy, psychology, personal stories, to help you gain knowledge, not just about these concepts in general, but maybe about your own capacity for resilience and growth when you're faced with tough stuff.
It really does make you think about those moments of wanting to quit quite differently.
It does. And, having multiple lenses, multiple potential strategies in your back pocket, it means you're not stuck if one approach doesn't click or doesn't work in a particular situation. Different times, different feelings might call for a different tool.
Okay, so let's leave you with a final thought to mull over, building on the core message of this article. Consider this possibility. What if the very challenges you're facing right now are not obstacles standing in the way of your growth, but are actually the essential environment for your growth? Or what if those difficult emotions are not problems you need to solve or get rid of, but are actually valuable, maybe even rare, opportunities for some profound learning?